Awakening the Dreamer is the workshop for which you have all been invited. So again, I welcome all of you. And this workshop is being conducted by Sister.Elizabeth from San Francisco and Brother John. So I invite both of them to take their chairs here. To help us, we have Sister San. So she will also be here in this workshop. And Sister.Elizabeth, she has been practicing Raj Yoga for the past 27 years. She is taking care of the retreat center in San Francisco. Anubhuti is the name of the retreat center there. We have Brother John. He is with the Pachamama Alliance, and both of them, the Pachamama Alliance and the Brahma Kumaris together, they are going to conduct this workshop.
It's the third planet from the sun. A tiny blue sphere spinning for a moment in time. A remarkable place that was kind enough to yield just the right elements to sustain a phenomenon called life. Where each creature is as unique as this world we call home. And a day begins in much the same way for all. Maybe that's when it crosses your mind. In the warmth from a ray of sun, or the kindness of a stranger, it occurs to you how one life touches so many others. And you begin to see how all things are connected, like the blood that unites one family. And you come to realize that mankind did not weave the web of life. We're merely a strand in it. And whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. On the third planet from the sun.
So this short little video is basically giving the message that whatever we do to each other, what we do to the planet, we do to ourselves. And this workshop was first presented at our retreat center just as a social service. I didn't know who the Pachamama people were. I didn't know John. And I thought, all right, fine, because we had some connections and good friends, and we said, you can use our facility because they don't charge and they're all volunteers. So we thought, fine, okay. So I sat in on it. I thought I would just sit in for a half hour. I sat for the whole time.
We trust that will serve your needs completely. I have a request that if you have a cell phone, if you'd put it on silent, please. And if you do need to use your cell phone, would you be happy to go outside the room? Is that okay? Better still, give yourself a complete break for the next 4 hours. Okay. Yeah, Elizabeth.
Take a nice deep breath in and just relax. And you'll hear the sound of the Amazon River. And just take a moment to be aware of your own breath and the life that thrives within. And I'm also aware of the room. And those that I'm sharing the room with, the other souls in the room. And let go of all the thoughts of the morning. And allow yourself to become present and you hear the sounds of nature. Allow the sounds to be a doorway into the world of Mother Nature. I'm aware of the life that surrounds me, and I'm aware of myself as that living force, conscient energy, soul. And what a lovely opportunity I have to bring awareness, the power of my consciousness, and awareness of the effect that it may have on our beautiful planet Earth. Om Shanti. Thank you.
Share a story if we can. Can I tell you a story? 13.7 billion years ago, when everything we know, everything that exists and has ever existed and will ever exist, existed of Earth, existed in a tiny space smaller than a seed and burst into life. Enormous sound and enormous light burst into life and the universe was born. The universe was born as an expanding field of cosmic intelligence and love. And the universe that is expanding to this very day was carrying this intelligence and this love, and that intelligence and love began to order the universe, and the stars were born, the galaxies were born, 100 billion galaxies, each containing 100 billion stars. And the stars born burst into life, gave out light and heat, and died in the cycle of life. And on one particular star, 4 billion years ago, one star in a little corner of the Milky Way galaxy had an orbiting rock traveling around it. Initially red-hot lava, but as it cooled, as this rock cooled, the circumstances were just exactly right for an experiment in life to begin. And life sprung into being and began to multiply in different forms, from single-celled organisms through to the different forms of life, the biodiversity that was being celebrated just last week here in Hyderabad. And amidst this diversity of life, the human family, with our responsibility to the whole circle of life, our responsibility as a human family to take care of the circle of life that takes care of us, to take care of, we might say, Pachamama, Mother Earth, the way that Mother Earth takes care of us, ceaselessly providing us with food, with nourishment, with water, with warmth. And our responsibility as a human family to give back to that. And there was a time when every human being understood the place of the human being in that family of life, that circle of life. And then somehow we began to drift away from that golden age. We began to drift away into a different way of thinking, in which we see ourselves as separate from each other and separate from the world. But the original call of life can still be heard. The original call of life is still protected by some people who live in this world close to the land, close to each other. I believe the original call of life still resides in our hearts, in every human heart. And that call of life is being drawn forth today as never before by the crises we see around us. Our hearts are being awakened to respond to the crises we see around us. And the call of life is reaching us in many amazing and different ways. There are people that live here on planet Earth, our home, who still understand the original dream of life. Some of those people, we call them indigenous people, we call them tribal people, we call them by different names, but they're people that still remember something that many of us in the modern world are in danger of forgetting. So I'd like to show you a short video.
Can I ask them a question?
Yeah.
Do you know about like the Mayan Indians and how they also know a big shift is happening? Have you heard about the indigenous people of the Americas? Have you heard about that? So he's referring to those people. And they're very simple in their life, but they have an inner wisdom. And this is what inspired the Pachamama. And also with the Brahma Kumaris, we also are aware that a big shift is happening. That there's a common awareness amongst the people of the earth and also of the Brahma Kumaris. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So this video will show you where the voice of Pachamama Alliance.
These are the Achuwa people, one of our planet's most remote indigenous groups. The Achuwa are an ancient dream culture still living in harmony with their ancestral land, nearly 2 million acres of pristine tropical rainforest in Ecuador and Peru. In the late 1980s, the Achuwa elders and shamans began having dreams and visions that a grave threat was coming to their people. The Achuwa soon realized what that threat was as they began to see what contact with the outside world and its thirst for oil was doing to the land and cultures of their indigenous neighbors. And so the Achuwa made a bold move. They reached out to create a partnership with the very world that was threatening to destroy them.
In 1995, a call issued forth from the heart of the natural world that was heard thousands of miles away by a small group of people in the modern world. In the summer of that year, in a remote village in the rainforest, these two worlds came together, and the Pachamama Alliance was born.
From the very beginning, our indigenous partners told us that it was really, really great that we were working with them in the Amazon shoulder to shoulder. But that was only half the battle. They told us that if we really wanted to protect their lands permanently, we would need to go to work in our part of the world. And as they put it, we would need to change the dream of the North, the dream of the modern world. A dream rooted in consumption and acquisition, without any regard to the consequences to the natural world or even our own future.
Out of our work with them, we came to see that we in the modern world truly are in some kind of a trance, living a dream that's threatening not only the rainforest and their way of life, but the health and well-being of the entire planet.
So in response to the request that came from its indigenous partners, the Pachamama Alliance created this symposium, Awakening the Dreamer, Changing the Dream, now being offered by thousands of volunteers in dozens of countries around the world. The purpose of the symposium is an audacious one, bringing forth an environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, socially just human presence on this planet.
The intention is that by the end, rather than seeing these as 3 separate issues, you see them as interrelated facets of one profoundly interconnected whole. And that you not only understand the scope and urgency of the planetary situation we face, but you also see that the possibility of our times is greater than the crisis.
The main purpose of the Awakening Dreamer program is to create a cadre of global citizens that are awake, people who are engaged in the conversation of what's it going to take to create a new future, and that also have the ability to see that the future is not something that's just we're going to live into, but it's something that we can actually create.
I love what that says, that what the world needs now is a huge cadre of awake citizens. Citizens who understand what the problems are in the world and see a different possibility and are committed to helping the human family reach that different possibility.
Now, we realize that most of you, how many of you are BKs that are affiliated with Brahma Kumaris? Okay. How many are here at this facility for the first time? Okay, thank you very much. So obviously the reason that you're here is that you are sensitive to the issues at hand and that you want to make a difference, and you probably already are in some action of service to your community, to your family, to the world in some way. Now, this workshop will help us, will offer some deeper insights on how we can become more influential, and also, I would say for myself, it was a deepening of understanding. I felt more of an authority after experiencing this workshop. And as I said before, it's about environmental sustainability, spiritual fulfillment, and social justice, that every human being is entitled to these three aspects. And it's also to inspire a sense of purpose for people, because, you know, when we've done this in San Francisco, this was a new story for them, and it was shocking for them. And they found that this was a way to be supported, to understand and be supported and move into action. So now for the what we'll be covering today, there are four chapters, 4 sections. Where are we? How did we get here? And what is possible now? And where do we go from here? Where are we? Take a look around. And so we will be showing you some wonderful data and statistics and some interviews by some scientists, authors, authorities on their topic from around the world, and hearing the facts of this condition of how the world is, where we are now. How did we get here? We're going to examine the causes, the root causes, because this will help us to understand some maybe perhaps some deep solutions for myself and figure it out for myself. This workshop is not to give you the answers. It's a way of you discovering for yourself the answers. What is possible now, we will share together and discover what is possible. And also what's amazing, and we're aware because of this is the beautiful country of Mahatma Gandhi, how one person made a difference, but the climate was also ready. Globally, Martin Luther King, how he made a difference. He was just a preacher, but the climate was ready. Bishop Desmond Tutu, one person, but that country was ready. And now the world is ready, and it's waiting for the individual to make a stand. And then where do we go from here? How we can make it practical. What are the practical steps? Okay? Okay, now we will make it an opportunity to introduce ourselves in the room. If we can just pair off and perhaps introduce yourself to someone you don't know or don't know very well.
Yeah, this works really well if we take these 4 questions. And so I invite you just to turn to somebody next to you. Two people. We're only going to take a moment over this, so please be focused and share with somebody else your answers to these 4 questions, and then listen to their answers in return. So if you just do that, maybe just turn around in your chair, find somebody else, and have this introduction with somebody else. Thank you. Thank you, friends. Thank you. Please bring your attention back to the front. There'll be time, if you've just made a new friend, there'll be time to get to know them better over lunch. And then just as an experiment, can we hear a couple of the concerns? So this 3rd question says, what concerns you most about the world? Would a couple of people just share in 1 or 2 words what are the concerns you have? And it would help us if you just stand up and speak loudly when you say it. So what concerns do we have? Human relations and people being more concerned about themselves.
No ethical values.
Thank you. Yeah, madam. Conflict everywhere. Okay. Yes, so there's conflict everywhere. Yes, madam. Violence and a lack of concern about violence. Let's take a couple more. Yes, sir. Disharmony. Yeah, disharmony everywhere. Yes, and yes, sir. So the unrest and the conflict is internal. Yes, sir.
The financial crisis leading to the social disturbances.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got huge crises based in how we're living together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Peacelessness. How much is
How
enough?
much is enough?
Lack of values are there in this world, which has led to all these problems.
Yes.
Are about
Because
values.
the values are missing.
Yes.
The values are
Human
missing.
values.
Okay, thank you. So that's a sample of what's concerning us. Let's do the same thing with the 4th question. What gives us hope in the world? Spirituality, this man says. Thank you. So the people in the community who are concerned and are doing something for themselves and for the coming generation. Thank you. Yes, sir. Knowing who I am gives us... Yeah, thank you. Yes, sir. Sustainability
Reporting.
Sustainability reporting, that gives us hope. Thank you. Start loving nature, that gives us hope. Any other ladies? To start loving yourself. Okay, this is what gives us hope, is when we can do these things. Anything else, sir? So it gives us hope to remember that people are good. And that will unite us, yeah, okay. Hope. Okay, nature will. So what I'm hearing is there's as much hope in the room as there is concern.
Now at least 1% people are there in this world who are looking for, having hope that this world changes for the better.
Thank you. So hope is going to be a theme of our afternoon. And we're going to launch into the questions now, the 4 questions that Elizabeth shared. There's a man with a microphone. Okay, yes, sir.
See, most of the people are good. They should be directed properly.
Right.
They need proper direction.
So it's with proper direction and the natural goodness of the human family, then there's hope for us. Thank you. Thank you with the microphone. So we're going to move to the first question, which is we're going to start to explore where are we. And I want to just say a couple of things about this. We're going to look at where are we in terms of the same three elements we have in the purpose. So we're going to look where we are environmentally, spiritually, and socially. So we'll look at each of those elements. And I want to tell you that we're sharing information with you, not because we are the experts about what the problems are, not because we are the experts about the solutions, but because we're concerned, committed citizens wanting us all to have this inquiry. So if you do have questions about any of the data, please ask me later, because all the data we use is verifiable. It's all come from authentic, objective sources, and ask me about it later if you'd like to. In fact, I'd like to suggest if you have any questions, you hold them for the end of the session, when it will be, we'll have a great time for exchanging questions. And then let's look at this inquiry now, rather as if we're taking planet Earth and the human family to the doctors. This is like a medical report. Where are we as a planet? Where are we as a human family? And we're going to have to look at the answers to the question, where are we, before we can move on. Some of this is information you've heard before. Please, if you've heard this before, listen again with your heart open. Maybe listen again through your heart and see how this information feels when we listen that way. And if you have heard this before, please, try to find a new perspective. We're going to go into the first of some videos that show us where are we. And so let's take the first of those, Sam. Thank you.
Given that our purpose is bringing forth an environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, and socially just human presence on this planet, the first question to ask is, where are we? In other words, what kind of world is our modern way of life actually producing?
Answering that question and confronting the realities it reveals may not be comfortable, but as we'll see, it is an essential first step to revealing what may be the greatest opportunity any generation has ever faced.
One place to begin is with the dramatic changes that have occurred in human population. For thousands of years, human population on Earth remained relatively steady. Then, about 200 years ago, at the time of the Industrial Revolution, humans learned how to harness the energy of fossil fuels. That allowed agriculture productivity to increase dramatically, and human population began to grow exponentially.
Since then, we in the modern world have attempted to meet our needs and wants through an ever-expanding process of extraction, production, consumption, and disposal of natural resources.
Gross domestic product, GDP, is supposed to, be a measure of everything, puts a value on everything that's been produced in an economy within a year's time. But what that doesn't measure is the fact that in order to achieve that gross domestic product, there's also a lot of destruction of natural wealth. And one can in fact say that the greater the GDP of a country is, measured conventionally, the more natural wealth, either in that place or globally, has been destroyed.
This current industrial model requires continuous economic growth. But is that growth sustainable? According to the United Nations, sustainability is the ability of the current generation to meet its needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet theirs. In many ways, the mass consumption dream of the modern world has been a nightmare for the global environment.
The Earth's forests are shrinking. Soils are eroding. Water tables are falling as a result of overpumping of aquifers. Fisheries are collapsing. Grasslands are turning into desert as a result of overgrazing. No civilization has ever survived the ongoing destruction of its natural support systems, nor will ours.
In fact, the world is rapidly approaching a number of tipping points, thresholds beyond which dangerous trends will become irreversible, threatening the existence of life as we know it. One such tipping point is the end of cheap, plentiful petroleum, what is known as peak oil.
The academic researchers, who are much more likely to be independent and hard-headed in their analysis outside the oil industry, believe that peak oil probably in the area of a 2010, 2015, something like that. And after that, we begin to see a reduction in the supply, but an acceleration of demand. It is impossible to believe that that will not happen. It is going to happen.
Humanity has been continuously increasing its resource demand to the extent that by the mid-80s, we've started to use more than what nature can regenerate. And by 2007, humanity used about 30% more than what nature can renew. So we have been in global overshoot.
Overshoot can be thought of as living off of your credit card. You know, humanity's living off its ecological credit card. If we use more than nature can keep up with, we actually start to erode natural capital that life depends on.
Currently, if everyone on Earth lived as North Americans do, we'd need 5 Earths. For everyone to live as Europeans do would take 3 Earths. In other regions, people are living beyond the capacity of 1 Earth as well. China and India are presently living just under the 1 Earth level. But given the rapid industrialization and economic growth of both countries, that's sure to change.
We are fast approaching a number of tipping points related to the increase of carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere, caused primarily by the burning of fossil fuels.
The scientists around the world have come together to tell us that climate change is actually happening at a much faster rate than they had first anticipated. The signs of this are the cataclysmic storms, the extremes in weather. The polar ice caps are melting, and it means that the entire ecosystem is in peril.
Tipping point means that, in the context of climate change, that after a certain temperature rise and certain other impacts on the global ecosystem, certain things change that cannot be moved back. If the glaciers disappear, then they will no longer be able to supply the lakes and the rivers. As they are melting, you have more water around, flooding, and lakes are full. But once they disappear, then that's it. Then there is no more.
While people are becoming increasingly aware of the effects of climate change, what's not as well known is the impact we are having on other species.
We are in the midst of a mass extinction, but the news has not reached the general public. They are utterly unaware that the sacred and talismanic and heartbreakingly loved companions of ours on this earth are about to disappear forever. They will not return. African lions are on the absolute verge of extinction. There are only 20,000 left. That's down 90% in the past few decades. Every species and subspecies of tiger on the planet is on the absolute verge of extinction. Elephants, down 90% in the past century. 90% of all large fish are gone from the oceans. Half of all species of life may be extinct in 50 years.
Nothing this destructive has happened in 65 million years. I mean, why is that not our central concern? It's overwhelming. No one imagined it could happen. So suddenly, we're confronted with this fact, and we don't really know how to respond to it. I think that's beyond most of us, because we haven't deepened our hearts in a way that would make possible the grief that is wanting to be felt.
If you're comfortable, just close your eyes, please, and or lower them, and just pay attention to how the information in that video and the images in that video, how they make you feel. Just notice the sensations you have inside, or any emotions that come to the surface. It's really valuable sometimes to just be with information like this, not thinking about how to fix the situation, not planning what to do, just acknowledging what it is to be a human being alive today in the world we've just seen described. Thank you. Thank you for taking time to listen newly, to experience this information newly. We're going to share another video with you which is about social justice and spiritual fulfillment. And before we do that, I just wanted to say a little bit about what social justice is. There are lots of definitions of social justice. There is no single definition agreed by everybody, but one way of thinking about social justice is to say that the world will be socially just when everybody has equal access to resources and equal access to opportunities. That won't mean that our lives are all exactly the same, but we'll have equal access and equal opportunity. Every child born on earth would have the same opportunities, regardless of their country of birth, their nationality, their religion, their gender. The lines of difference that we've created wouldn't separate us in terms of our access to opportunities and resources. And as we know very well, that's not the world that we live in. We live in a world where we've created lines of difference between people. And some of these lines of difference have been very deliberately created. And some of the systems that keep these differences in place have been very deliberately created. And I'm saying that, and I know that as a white man. I know that as a white man from the UK. The world is somehow created to give advantage to people like me. And I get privilege and access to resources and opportunities that aren't due to who I am, but they're due to the circumstances of my birth. And I don't want to live in a world like that. I don't want any of us to live in a world like that. And so our work for social justice is the work to overcome the systems and structures, and we have to remember that some of these have been very deliberately created to advantage a small number of people at the expense of many others. So the work for social justice is the work of changing the systems and structures of power where they don't support equality of access. And so I think it's just important for us to recognize that fact and to be honest with ourselves about that fact. And then we start together to overcome the systems that separate us and the lines of difference that have been created amongst us, so we can find again what it is to really belong to one human family. So please, as you watch this next video, be open to what it helps us to understand about social justice and about spiritual fulfillment, and ask ourselves the question, where are we in relation to these two elements?
We've seen the impact that the dream of the modern world is having on the environment and other species. But how is it affecting the human family? One of the primary expectations people have of the modern industrial system has been that by growing the economy, life will get better for everyone, that we are continually moving toward a more socially just world. But is this true?
When I was growing up, I always thought that, of course, the world will become more equal, there'll be more people educated, people will get jobs, and, we'll all be better off, we'll all be more prosperous. However, what has happened in the last 20 years or so is the world has become more unequal. This idea that the poor will be kind of helped to come along, even though the rich get richer, this hasn't actually worked out to be true.
We all know that a great disparity currently exists between rich and poor. One way to understand this disparity is to think of the Earth as a community of 100 people. Although significant progress has been made in addressing issues of social justice, systems of power and privilege still perpetuate injustice throughout the world. Much of humanity continues to suffer from the legacy of centuries of colonialism, imperialism, and racism.
A socially just world is a world in which if you had to draw a lot and it would put you anywhere in that society, you would feel perfectly confident. You wouldn't be worried because you knew whatever lot you drew would be a good lot. It doesn't mean everything's equal. It just means that every single person in that society has a decent shot at living the fullest life that they can. But if you close your eyes and you think to yourself, there's no more racism, all this racism stuff, that's in the past. Close your eyes and think to yourself, would you want to be black? Would you trade places? Well, if you wouldn't trade places, then there's work to be done.
People around the world are starting to realize that climate disruption, pollution, and other environmental problems will soon have an impact on the way they live. But for millions of others, it already has. The movement to address this has a name: environmental justice.
Environmental justice is the belief that no community should have to bear the brunt of a disproportionate amount of environmental burdens and not enjoy any environmental benefits. But right now, race and class are the most excellent indicators as to where you're going to find the good stuff like parks and trees and where you're going to find the bad stuff like waste facilities or power plants. And around the world, that is something that you see.
In many parts of the world, especially once colonized countries, where local people still have no control over their natural resources, the industrial world's demand for oil, minerals, and timber is having devastating effects on the land, air, water, and people. An example is the Niger Delta of Nigeria, where hundreds of millions of dollars of oil have been extracted and exported. Yet most of the people live in poverty on less than $1 a day.
And because of the oil activities in this place, a lot of people who go to fishing can't even catch fish. The aquatic life is destroyed.
See, the cassava, they don't rot to finish. The oil now is spoil and like this. So.
All our food, all our fish die, finish.
The community asked us to go and do the cleanup. I was 5 months pregnant. I miscarried. We are 9 women who miscarried.
Oil should be a blessing, not curse to our land. But I think it's a curse to our land, man. We are dying here.
What we do not understand is that we humans are only part of this ecosystem. And when we kill part of this system, we are killing ourselves.
I think for a lot of people who are born in privilege, there's a sense of what a friend of mine calls the right not to know. I don't have to know about poverty. I don't have to know about racism. I don't have to know about environmental degradation or environmental justice or injustice, because it's not me. I've got my life and I've got my family and I can do what I want. But the world is not forgiving of that much anymore. Pollution carries, water runs out in rich places too. The forests are coming down everywhere. The fish in the sea are depleting. It's hurting us all. Yes, it's hurting the poor first, but it's very, very difficult to go through life anymore and not see it and not feel it at some level personally.
Those of us in the modern world have had access to more money, more food, more comfort, more entertainment, more travel, and more communication than any people who have ever lived. But has all this made us happier?
The idea that material gain leads to personal fulfillment has been demonstrated not to be the case. Although incomes have skyrocketed in economically advanced countries, study after study has shown that levels of reported happiness have remained the same or even declined.
There is a great loneliness of spirit today. We're trying to cope in the face of what seems to be overwhelming evidence that who we are doesn't matter. Meanwhile, we're yearning for connection with each other, with ourselves, with the powers of nature, the possibilities of being alive. When that tension arises, we feel pain. And then we cover that over with anything that we can use to disconnect and to go away.
The reason that people are into this mass consumption nightmare dream is because people are lonely and people are hurt and people really believe that more income, more stuff, more consumption, more things, the relationship with things will fix the hunger in the human heart. And it will never work.
This is not the best of all possible worlds, even though it appears that way on TV and advertisements. I think people in their most poignant and honest moments will admit this is really hard right now for everybody.
The anguish we feel for what is happening to our world is inevitable and normal and even healthy. So pain is very useful. Just don't be afraid of it. Because if we are afraid to feel that, we won't feel where it comes from. And where it comes from is love. Our love for this world. That's what is going to pull us through.
It's interesting that it also showed a spiritual poverty amongst those that have plenty. And it took a while for me to explain to advocates of environment, advocates of social justice, because they had so much anger in their heart for those that keep acquiring and have wealth. And I explained to him how their soul is separated from themselves. They don't know who they are, and they are hungry. And without love, how can we function? So it's a cost to all of us. And so when we think of spiritual fulfillment, it's asking that question of what is my purpose? What is the impact that I have on my family, in society, and also in the world? That I have a sense of purpose, and that I answer that question, who am I? And when we do that, then we have a boat to jump to, because the consumerism is sort of this addiction, this trance, this dream state, that this brings happiness. But of course, it never ends, as all addictions are. So let's take a moment and we'll do a little meditation now, a commentary. Close your eyes or just gaze forward. And take note of how you're feeling right now. Let any thoughts of trying to fix it or change it, let them go and just sit with the feeling, because behind that feeling and that compassion is a beautiful intelligence waiting to be discovered, an intelligence based on love. And when you're ready, take a breath. Be aware that you're in good company with like-minded souls. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Om Shanti. So before we move on to the next section, we'll take a moment and turn to your neighbor, and maybe as someone new, or your same neighbor you spoke to before, it's fine, and just share how you're feeling right now. Just what are you feeling? Not what I'm thinking or what I want to fix. Not what has to change. Just what am I feeling right now?
Imagine in your sharing, you're identifying many of the natural human responses to the information we've seen. You know, and it's perfectly natural to feel angry, to feel rage about what we've seen. That's perfectly natural. It's perfectly natural to feel sad, to feel a great sorrow when we see the effects of the way we're living in the world. It might be that you feel grief for that simple way of life and the other forms of life, the other people that are suffering, the other animals, other life that is suffering. Grief is natural as a response. Guilt is a natural response. There might be fears that come up. There's a whole range of reaction, and these are all the perfectly natural human responses to this situation we're examining. So I want us just to acknowledge that these reactions are normal, they're to be expected. I'm indeed grateful to you for allowing yourself these reactions. It's much easier to look away or not to feel the pain of the world right now. But you know what? When we allow ourselves to feel pain, we open in our hearts the space to feel love as well. If we don't open the space for pain, we don't have much space for love. That's my experience. And so when we allow ourselves to really feel what wants to the pain that we want to feel, the anguish, the anger, the rage, whatever it might be, it allows our hearts to be big enough to find the love that will have us do something about this. So thank you. This is an exercise in opening our hearts. Thank you for being willing to do that.
Okay, so we finished the section on the question of where are we, and now we're going to examine how did we get here. And to just go a little deeper, because if we were to, not discover the reasons, then we wouldn't really find long-term solutions. If I had a beautiful garden, if we had Satyug tomorrow, but we didn't change the sanskars of the human family, if I had this beautiful garden and I set loose 12 wild children, and I mean wild like just being, all over the place, how long would that paradise last? So by a magic wand, we have Satyug on the earth, but we don't change our sanskars, our nature, our vision, then how long would it take for it to dissolve again? So now let's take a look at the root causes, how we got here, and also to examine these unexamined assumptions. There are many things that have brought us into this dream, and that is that we assume things, that we assume that the government will take care of us, that our churches and synagogues and temples will take care of us. We assume different things. For me, that I assume, everything's going fine, I'm taking care of myself, I'm taking care of my family, and then I'm realizing, no, there's an urgency. I need to speed up my efforts. So let's take a look at this video.
Now that we've looked squarely at where we are, a good question to ask might be, how did an intelligent, well-meaning species, who for the most part only wanted to make the world better and more secure for their children, end up in such a condition? What could possibly explain how we got into our current predicament? How did we get here? Someone who looked deeply at this question was Thomas Berry, a cultural historian and cosmologist who spent much of his life examining the relationship between humans and the community of life on Earth.
The great work of our times, I would say, is moving the human community from its present situation as a destructive presence on the planet to a benign or mutually enhancing presence. It's that simple.
Thomas Berry says that the primary problem with Western civilization is that it creates and perpetuates a radical separation between the human world and the natural world. That we've given all the rights to the human and no rights to the natural world. We think we're behaving very rationally, that we're on this kind of logical economic course, but actually we're heading toward our destruction, and the only way to explain it is that we've been locked into a kind of mythic entrancement, a worldview that's become dysfunctional and therefore destructive.
According to Thomas Berry, our industrial age could be characterized as a period of technological entrancement, in which our obsession with progress has us marching toward an ill-defined magical paradise somewhere in the future. A future in which we have mastered the earth and everything on it, without any limits. And so, it could be said that we in the modern world are living in a kind of trance. Indigenous people would call this trance the dream of the modern world. This dream could also be called our current worldview, a way of seeing the world we're not even aware that we have. A worldview is held in place by a set of beliefs and unexamined assumptions that we're completely unaware of. Like glasses we've worn so long, we don't even know we're looking through them anymore. People's actions correlate with their worldview. We take actions consistent with how we see the world. And often, those actions produce outcomes we didn't predict or intend. So when our actions produce outcomes we're not intending, it's important to identify the unconscious, unexamined assumptions that generated those actions in the first place.
All the crises we're facing today can be seen as the unintended result of the unexamined assumptions that permeate the modern industrial society and our own thinking. So let's look at some of these unexamined assumptions.
One way to characterize the cosmology that really is at work in our culture is this, that the natural world, the earth, is there for us to satisfy our needs and desires, whatever they might be. So we want to make things, we use the earth, we make things. Or we think of it as something like a lumber yard. In fact, we use the word resource. So the earth is filled with resources that are there for us to use as we see fit. Now, that orientation actually is not that bad so long as humans are not that powerful. But suddenly, when we become so massively present, that orientation turns out to be completely pathological.
In modern society, many of us believe that our job as smart shoppers is to get the highest level of comfort and convenience at the lowest possible price. We assume that when we buy something, the price we pay reflects the full cost of making it. According to Annie Leonard in The Story of Stuff, maybe not.
I was walking to work and I wanted to listen to the news. I found this cute little green radio for $4.99. I was standing there in line to buy this thing and I was thinking, how could $4.99 possibly capture the cost of making this radio and getting it into my hands? The metal was probably mined in South Africa. The petroleum was probably drilled in Iraq. The plastics were probably produced in China. And maybe the whole thing was assembled in Mexico. $4.99 wouldn't even pay the rent for the shelf space it occupied until I came along, let alone part of the staff guy's salary who helped me pick it out, or the multiple ocean cruises and truck rides pieces of this radio went on. That's how I realized I didn't pay for the radio. So who did pay? Well, these people paid with the loss of their natural resource space. These people paid with the loss of their clean air, with increasing asthma and cancer rates. All along this system, people pitched in so I could get this radio for $4.99.
Many people assume that we can create a healthy society by concentrating solely on our success as individuals.
We are not just individuals. We are part of a society, a worldwide society. We're interdependent, and that interdependence flows at many levels. It's spiritual, it is psychological, it is economic. The notion that we can exist and prosper just individually, based purely on what we do and what we earn, is a rather new notion in history, and it doesn't work.
Another prevalent assumption is that racism is primarily an expression of personal prejudice and the way individuals treat each other. The effects of institutionalized racism are harder to see and to change.
Racism has a cost to every human being on this planet. Racism has dehumanized all of us. We are not taught how it was set up, how it came into being, how the very fact that we have something called race means that we are ranking people and that we are giving white people more value than everyone else. Until we understand the depth of that, it's going to be hard to undo racism. It's going to be hard to change. What we try to do is change people that aren't making it in the system, rather than changing the systems that make sure that some people don't make it.
We don't just have unexamined assumptions about how we relate to the planet. We have underlying assumptions that we haven't examined about how we relate to each other. We have a society that believes that we have throwaway resources, throwaway species, and throwaway people. The same mindset that says, I can ball up this can and throw it away. The same mindset says, I can ball up this child and throw that child into a prison forever for a mistake that that child made, similar to the mistake my child might be making with drugs or whatever. That's the core mindset.
When you say you're going to throw something away, where's away? There's no such thing. And where away actually is social justice issues and environmental justice issues. Every plastic bag, plastic cup, plastic to-go container, that is the petroleum complex in Africa, Ecuador, Colombia, Alaska, you name it. Every paper bag, paper plate, paper napkin, that is a forest. Every thing that is called waste or disposable is the ways in which we are saying that it is acceptable to throw our planet and its people away. Disposables are one of the huge magnifiers of how we've lost our connection to the sacred. Just take it for granted that we're going to go to the coffee shop and get coffee that came from an exploited community somewhere where a forest was destroyed for a monoculture, put it in a paper cup that used to be a forest, put a plastic lid on top of it that used to be an indigenous community somewhere in a beautiful area, drink it, and then throw it away where it goes back and pollutes a nature community or a human community at the end. I am so fiercely passionate about it because I know in my heart that as long as we are trashing the planet and trashing each other, a healthy and holistic and healed world is not possible. We cannot have peace on the earth unless we also have peace with the earth.
The dream of the modern world is constructed almost entirely out of assumptions that have simply been accepted for generations. Questioning these assumptions is a powerful way to begin to awaken from our collective trance.
And this video that we've just seen shows us that the trance has got us caught acting. Our behavior comes out of thoughts that we haven't examined. Let me give you an example about how this was in my life. I spent years working to get a bigger house, working hard to get the money to get a bigger house, because somewhere in my thinking I had the assumption the bigger the house I lived in, the more successful I was as a person. Now, when I actually look at that thought, it makes no sense to me. But if I don't look at it, then my behavior was driven towards acquiring more money and buying a bigger house, and then a house that was bigger than we could possibly need. And so my behavior was driven by thinking that I hadn't examined. And what we know and what's demonstrated in that video is that's true for all of us. And collectively that creates a trance in which we all behave in ways which make no sense. Some of our behavior makes no sense at all, but it's consistent with these unexamined thoughts that we have. And if we just see the next slide, Sand, these are some of the thoughts that were illustrated in the video. I particularly like that one in the middle. We have the assumption that there's a place called away, so that when I've finished with my plastic bottle, it'll go somewhere called away and stop being a problem. And of course that's not true. So when we realize there's nowhere called away, we're on a spaceship here, hurtling through space. A plastic bottle has to go somewhere. When we realize that, it changes the choices we can take. So this idea that we can look at our thinking and identify it is really valuable, and I'm going to invite us to do an exercise and discover for ourselves the thoughts, the assumptions that are creating the modern worldview here in India. Okay? What are the assumptions that are creating the modern worldview? So it's really valuable for us to have a chance to find this in discussion. This is a very interesting conversation, and I want to make sure we can really all learn from each other here in the room. So if you're the secretary in your group, would you please stand up? And what we'll do, if we could have a microphone, please, to each, and we'll just go to each group in turn. Please give us one example, just one. You might have found 5 examples, but just give us one example, please, of the unexamined assumption that you found. So who's got the microphone? Hello, hi. So what was the assumption that your group found?
The assumption that we found was we have taken the resources for granted, and we've not made any, and we've not utilizing the resources in a constructive way, which is leading to the current situation that we are in.
Okay, thank you. So we've taken the resources for granted. That's a little bit like the thought, the earth has got infinite resources. We'll never run out of anything. The earth is so big, we'll never run out of anything. So we take it for granted. And then it doesn't matter how many things we consume. It doesn't matter how much waste we generate if we have that assumption. Fantastic. Thank you very much to that group. I'm going to move, if you pass the microphone to another group.
We are considering money as the success criteria. But rather than giving, considering values and real happiness, we are forgetting.
So here's the assumption. What this group have found is the assumption money is success.
The more educated and the more intelligent we are, the more self-centered we become.
The more self-centered we become. So that's actually, sir, just hold the microphone a second. I think that's an observation, not an assumption. So the more educated we are, the more selfish we become.
Yeah, more selfish we become.
That's actually an observation. The assumption that's underneath that, I think, is that if I'm educated, I know what to do and I can act for my own good. Does that sound like an assumption? You know, I know what's best.
For myself.
How many people in the room ever have the thought, I know what's best? Everybody. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. You know, so when we get educated, we think, I know what's best. We stop listening to other people. Yeah.
We have peer pressure, being more status conscious and forgetting our peace and less conscious about our environment.
Okay.
And they take a back step, like, you know.
Thank you. So one of the things in their peer pressure, so what's peer pressure is when I'm worried what other people think. It's the assumption that what other people think of me is important. And I'm so grateful that you brought that up. I spent half of my life worrying what other people thought about me. And it prevented me doing so many things. I wouldn't be stood here now if I was worried what other people thought about me. So the assumption that lies underneath peer pressure, I need other people to like me, is a very limiting assumption. Yeah, thank you for showing that to us. Who's got the microphone now? Yes, sir.
We considered an assumption that Earth or universe provides plenty of opportunities to improve our standard of living.
Okay, so the assumption is the Earth is full of opportunities to improve our standard of living. And, you know, in some ways that's a good assumption, that's a positive assumption, because it has us think in abundant terms. But the danger is that that assumption becomes like the first assumption, there's enough of everything. So does everybody here, do we begin to see how important it is to pay attention to our thinking? Our thinking is controlling our actions. Let's take from the other scribes. Who's got the microphone? Madam.
We don't feel that we are accountable for the environmental changes and the social differences created. We feel that as an individual, what I can do for it.
What can I do as an individual?
Yeah, even if I try, I won't be able to make any change.
That's beautiful. Who's ever had that same thought? I can't make it. I can't make a difference. I'm expecting to see more people with their hands up, just because I know how easy it is to fall into that trap. Yeah, thank you. Okay, and this goes alongside it. Somebody else will take care of the problem, but not me. Not me. Somebody else will take care of the problem. How easy is it when we think that? All we have to do then is find a comfortable chair, turn on the television. Our life's easy because somebody else will take care of it. Thank you. No, sir, let's just take from everybody if we may. I love it that you've got so many ideas, but let's just hear from everybody. We'll come back. Okay, thank you.
Or actually the last point, sorry. We have throwaway resources, species and people. And the unexamined assumption, especially from an Indian perspective, is that there is a lot of prevailing corruption. And if we can eradicate that corruption, I think we are a better place to live in.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to ask again, is that an observation or an assumption? So
it is an assumption from the leaders or whoever does the corruption.
Right. Okay. So we're trapped by that sense that there's corruption everywhere. Thank you. There is. This man's pointing out there's a very subtle difference between an observation and an assumption. Yeah, thank you. So
yeah, people, we started like comparing horizontal with the other people, and we are in feeling like the life is like a race. That's the illustration the people are living in.
Right.
The horizontal comparison.
Yeah.
The horizontal comparison between other people and makes the feel like it is a race.
Right.
Then everyone is going after the properties and.
So we feel like it's a rat race.
Yeah.
And then when we're in the rat race, we're just worried about me. Yeah, me. I'm worried about me being successful because it's a rat race. And in a rat race, there's only one winner. Chief Rat. Correct. Yeah. The biggest rat wins. Okay, thank you. What about, who's got the microphone now?
Yes. We assume that our development of a country depends upon the GDP. And GDP will be increased by the developing of a country, and GDP depends upon the development of a state, and development of a state also depends upon the development of a village, and development of village depends upon the development of a person. Means GDP is depend upon the development of the person. Means GDP is increasing by when acquiring the some materialistic things like car, Mercedes, Bangla, these things. But GDP is not a factor of happiness. So recently China also new factor, that is GHP, gross happiness product. Yeah. How a person is happiness, that is so important. How the development of domestic material, that's not important.
That's wonderful, thank you. So we're caught in this, we're caught in this idea that GDP is important. That we're caught in this idea, GDP is gross domestic product, it's an economic measure, and I have never heard a politician in any country in the world say that they can see a future in which there is no economic growth. As if economic growth can continue forever. No politician dares to speak about the end of economic growth. So the assumption that we're all operating in is that economic growth is good, and then it will continue forever. And we know that's not possible. We only have one planet. So, gross happiness product is a different idea. Thank you. This is wonderful. Who's got the microphone now? Yes, sir.
Too much of selfishness, then lack of knowledge about the real purpose of life, then unlimited desires beyond requirements.
Yeah.
These are all the problems that lead to unrest, unhappiness, ill health, peacelessness, and so on.
So it's as if we're diverted from the real purpose of life by acquiring the things that will make us happy. So it's like my happiness and my comfort is the most important thing. And that, can you see that if we have that thought, it leads us in all sorts of seemingly crazy behavior? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we generally tend to utilize resources more than what is required just to lead more and more luxurious life.
Yeah. So this gentleman's pointing out that we use more resources than we need just to have a luxurious life. So there's an assumption that if I can afford it, I'll have it. Yeah? If I've got the money, if it feels luxurious, I'll have it. And so our crazy behavior continues. And the modern dream continues, and the billboards just get larger. The billboards, the advertising hoardings by the airport are the largest I've ever seen. And they're getting bigger. Thank you. All right, two more and then we're going to move on. Madam.
Yeah, we as human beings, we presume we have a lot of sense of freedom, but we don't realize we have a lot of any degree of responsibility, and which leads to no respect of freedom and also indiscipline. Which we as a group, we thought, because of this we lead to excess usage of resources, of indisciplined thoughts, which has led to the situation in which we are right now.
Okay, thank you. So we're saying that we're very aware that we have freedom as human beings, but that we're not taking with that freedom responsibility. So there's an assumption that I can have freedom without responsibility. That I can have what I want without being responsible for the whole. And that makes us behave in these more crazy ways. Thank you. Okay? That day never comes. Wow, thank you. That assumption. How many of us have had the thought, I'll do my saver that day in the future? There'll be a day in the future when I'll start paying back. There'll be a day in the future when I'll change and I'll live in a more sustainable way. That day. Come on, we all think that sometimes, don't we? Okay, yeah.
Assuming that we are too busy and can't spend time for sustainable or natural things, so that's why you're going for quick solutions, artificial things and fast foods. So this assumption is putting some pressure.
Yeah. So again, busyness, we assume that when we're busy, the things we're busy with are important. So we allow our busyness to divert us from acting in more sustainable ways. Thank you.
We are becoming more greedy, and we are not able to understand how much is our need and how much we are consumption, and how much is our consumption.
Okay, we're becoming more greedy, and we don't know the difference between what we need and what we want.
Yeah.
It's like the difference. There's a lovely story that Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, he used to walk in the market every day so that he could learn to tell the difference between what he needed and what he wanted. And so the assumption that we sometimes have in the trance of the modern world is that if I want it, I can have it. That all I have to do is want it, then I can have it. And we stop thinking about whether we need it or not.
Spirituality, Bhagavad Gita. But they are not bother about nature. They are not bother about what we are surrounding us. They teach us only selfish, how to we live in this world. Whereas the younger generation, they told that our parents are teach us only to how our children grown up. Right. For that what we should acquire from the surrounding. Okay. For that what we to more and more we have to get from our children. That they don't bother about spirituality and that how to live in air. This group is assumed like that only.
So
that
thank
there
you.
is a good age gap. Means previous people how they live and next generation how they teach but we are not teach about what is future.
This is almost like describing exactly the moment we have here in this country. There's a generation whose parents were teaching them the truths of the Gita, were teaching them about spirituality and a connection with nature, and then a younger generation where the message is that what we have to do is provide things for our children, give our children the things that they need. And they're very different messages. And it's so interesting. If I could share with you, visiting this beautiful country, I see a country that's got it's 2 feet in different places. One in this older wisdom, this wisdom which is so present in India, that we're all connected to each other. And that when we remember we're all connected, we can live successfully together. And then I see the other foot is in this modern world. The modern world that says we need to acquire more and own more and have bigger and better things in our lives. And this is leading us, I can't go much further, but it's very uncomfortable. And I think that's the situation that we're in. And so thank you for these beautiful examples. These beautiful examples, yeah. What this shows us really clearly is the root cause of the problem is here. The root cause of the problem is how we think. And I'm telling you, that is good news. That's really good news, because we can change this. Okay? And in India, we haven't necessarily forgotten it. We still have a memory here in the people that are here and the spiritual sense that's here. You still remember and know this. You have this connection. And this connection doesn't exist in the USA in such a big way. It doesn't exist in the UK where I come from. We've been in the modern dream much longer. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm so glad nobody pointed out the assumption that what comes from America is good. Because sometimes that's it. It's like the American ideas must be good ideas. People tend to think that. And it's not true. India's got a really strong tradition to hold on to. Ancient wisdom. And so we can bring our thinking back in line with the ancient wisdom, and then we can find a different way forward as a human family. This is the beginning of being hopeful. This is the turning point in our inquiry this afternoon. We're looking at 4 questions. Where are we? How did we get here? After lunch, we're going to look at what's possible and what shall we do about it. But this conversation is the turning point, because we begin to see that we can change our thinking. Our thinking is mistaken. As human beings, we're not bad people. We've just been doing the wrong thinking. So let's recognize that. Let's celebrate that we now know what the root cause is of the problem we have. And let's take ourselves to lunch. When we come back from lunch, we'll carry on with this inquiry with the next 2 exciting questions. What's possible instead of the modern dream? And then what are we going to do about it? But before that, we're going to take lunch.
So I would like to ask, is it possible we could be back by 2 o'clock? Okay. So let's, if I may, ask us to have a moment of silence and just take in what just happened and how I feel right now, and embrace the silence. Appreciating the moment and the wonderful people in the room. These magnificent souls, my brothers and sisters, part of this beautiful fabric we call our family.
Of all the countless assumptions that make up our modern industrial worldview, there is one that is primary and all-encompassing. The assumption that we are separate from everyone and everything. This assumption shapes virtually all of our perceptions and actions.
Over the centuries, the story that's been communicated in the modern world, consciously or unconsciously, has been that the world operates like a huge machine, made up of separate parts like a big clock. For the past 400 years, the scientific tradition has been trying to take the clock apart and figure out how it works so we can master it and use it for our own purposes.
A mechanistic view meant that instead of seeing the interconnection between things, there was a way of analyzing what people were coming into contact with and taking it apart. So what evolved was kind of a fragmented view of the natural world. And we became hypnotized, really, with the power that came out of this technology. And we lost our connection to each other. We lost our connection to the mystery of the universe.
There's a fundamental misconception that we are separate. We're learning that's not true. If there's only one, then whatever I do to you, I do to me. If there's only one, whatever I do to the air, I do to me. If there's only one, whatever I do in society is what I'm actually doing to myself, doing to my family, doing to my children.
Spiritual traditions have long taught that separation is an illusion. Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh puts it this way.
We have the word to be, but what I propose is the word to interbe, because it's not possible to be alone, to be by yourself. You need other people in order to be. You need other beings in order to be. Not only you need father, mother, but also uncle, brother, sister, society, but you also need sunshine, river, air, trees, birds, elephants, and so on. So it is impossible to be by yourself alone. You have to interbe with everyone and everything else. And therefore, to be means to interbe.
Increasingly, people in the modern world are listening to the voices of indigenous people, whose message has always been that all things are connected.
We use another terminology called mitakie oase, is all my relations. You know, we try to recognize that we are related to everything, to the animals, to the fish, to the plants, to the trees, to the birds, even the microorganisms, so that we are all related.
The foundational understanding from my point of view, or an indigenous point of view, is that you are a part of that land in a very interdependent way. You are part of the land, and it's your body. It's you. And you can't do things to the land that in the end comes back and destroys you.
This deep recognition of interconnection is supported by the current scientific understanding of the origin of the universe, which has shown that all of creation is profoundly connected at both the macro and micro level.
We can see that everything that ever was, is, or will be was compressed into a space smaller than a seed, tinier than a tear, more minuscule than a molecule. All space, all time, and the potential for everything that would ever exist started as a single point. So in a very real sense, science has discovered what indigenous people have known all along. We are all one. We are all connected. We all come from the very same source. Everything we see around us has developed from the boiling cauldron of the early earth, a sphere of lava that miraculously gave rise to the sea and the atmosphere, and then life in its infinite expressions. As Brian Swim says, the earth was once molten rock and now sings operas.
It is not the case that the earth was assembled and then we were added to the earth and it was there for our purposes. Rather, we came out of the earth. We are the universe in the form of a human, and it's true of everyone. It's an amazing new understanding of ourselves that is so profoundly inclusive. And everyone is part of this. Everything is part of this. And we discover as well a profound kinship, that no matter what being we're talking about on the planet, we are related. We're related in terms of energy. We're related in terms of genetics. We're all in one way or another like a form of kin. And that it's overwhelming. So it's just now coming into human awareness. It's going to take a lot of reflection to embody this fully, but it is a massive change in human consciousness.
Seeing ourselves as separate has had devastating consequences on the planet and all of life. Now, a new story about who we are as a planetary family is beginning to shape the consciousness on Earth. Looking at our history through this lens, it could be said that human beings have been tragically mistaken rather than being fundamentally flawed. This is good news because there's not much hope for an innately flawed species. But there is hope for one that is recognized and is waking up from a trance. That creates some powerful new possibilities for the future.
What beautiful words those are. How badly we need powerful possibilities for the future. And what we see in this video is the reminder that the knowledge of our interconnection is still alive. Is still alive inside, I think inside the heart of each of us, and in some places, in some countries, it's more alive than in others. And so we were celebrating that as we went to lunch. So there's this knowledge that when we can reconnect the human family, when we can remember the original wisdom, we have powerful possibilities for the future. Let's have an experience of that right now. We're going to play a very interesting exercise now. I'm going to invite everybody to join me in the space at the back of the room. So please leave your bags, leave your pens, leave your paper, leave everything here, and come and join me in the small space at the back of the room. You might begin to make eye contact with other people. And what I'd like you to do now is find yourself stood with one other person. Find yourself, it means you haven't got a partner. So you should be in pairs. If you haven't got a partner, there's a man here has got a partner, there's a man over there. So there's this man here. Notice them with your perhaps you can feel the sense of connection between us just got so much stronger. Imagine what's possible when the entire human family is reconnected in this way. Yeah.
Could just in one word, what thoughts or feelings come to you right now? Just call it out in one word. Powerful, love, connected, yes, peaceful, happy, huh? Unity, harmony,
calm,
smiling, blissful, boss, pause. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Attention to others, receptivity, respect. Huh? Understanding. Oneness. Recognition, recognizing.
Okay. Well, with this wonderful sense that we have, let's continue our inquiry. And let's look at the third question in more detail. And the third question is, what's possible now? Actually, I'm going to tell you a little inside story, is that we revise this material very regularly. And when we first created this material 7 years ago, this third question, what is possible, was we seem to be talking about what might be possible in the future. We think it's now time to change this third question to say, what is emerging? Mm-hmm. You see, the world is changing so quickly. The world is changing so quickly right now that the things we thought were possible just a few years ago are now actually happening. Mm-hmm. And we're going to look at some of this in a video in a short moment. But things are actually changing in the world now. Some people call it the Great Turning, or turning the tide. Here with the BK, we would call it the confluence age.
Confluence.
And the confluence is the period when things begin to shift very rapidly. And so here we are in this time of confluence, and we notice that something is changing around us and within us. Let's have a look at a beautiful video that encapsulates this.
Let us remember that there is a creative force in this universe, a power that is able to make a way out of no way and transform dark yesterdays into bright tomorrows. Let us realize that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice.
There is a tendency to think that what we see in the present moment will continue. We forget how often we've been astonished by the sudden crumbling of institutions, by extraordinary changes in people's thoughts, by unexpected eruptions of rebellion against tyrannies, by the quick collapse of systems of power that seemed invincible. What leaps out from the history of the past 100 years is its utter unpredictability.
Demonstrations in Russia were like totally illegal. After 1 second holding the banner in front of you, you would be arrested. But we did it once, and we did it twice, and then we did it 3 times, and a year later, demonstrations were a common thing on the streets of Moscow. We didn't believe that we can change anything, but we did it anyway.
After many centuries of warfare in Europe, who could have imagined the emergence of the political and economic power that is now the European Union? And in a country with a history of slavery and segregation, who could have predicted that a man of color would be elected its president? or that a nation would publicly apologize for the wrongs committed against its first peoples.
We apologise for the laws and policies of successive parliaments and governments that have inflicted profound grief, suffering and loss on these our fellow Australians. For the pain, suffering and hurt of these stolen generations, we say sorry.
Many, many years ago, I interviewed Desmond Tutu prior to the end of apartheid. And he kept saying, when we end apartheid, and I kept thinking, yeah, right, like dream on. I mean, I didn't want to, rain on his parade or anything, but in my heart of hearts, I thought, not in your lifetime. And lo and behold, a year and a half later, it was over. So it was a really profound lesson about what can happen when the will of people aligns.
We have defeated awful things like Nazism, like apartheid, and we've seen some wonderful human beings, Mahatma Gandhi, the Dalai Lama, Mother Teresa. What that says is that ultimately good prevails. It is a moral universe, despite all appearances to the contrary. It is that there's no way in which evil will ultimately triumph.
Many experts are convinced that humanity already possesses the resources and technology to solve our most pressing environmental and social problems.
We know how to do these things. This is not a great mystery. We don't have to do research for the next 20 years to figure out what to do. We know what to do. We think it'll take about $200 billion a year to stabilize population, eradicate poverty, and restore the economy's natural support systems over the next decade. That's a lot. But when you compare it with military budgets, it's really not that much. It is less than a third of the US military budget. It is roughly an eighth of the global military budget. So we can't say we don't have the resources to save civilization. We do.
The ideas, technologies, and policies that will lead to a new future are already emerging in government, business, and civil society, as well as in people's personal lives throughout the world.
El Ecuador es el primer país en el mundo en reconocer los derechos de la naturaleza en su constitución. En reconocer los derechos de la naturaleza significa tratar a la naturaleza como un alien a quien proteger y no como algo que se destruye, que se explota.
The United Nations Millennium Development Goals represent a worldwide effort to end hunger and poverty by 2015.
Businesses and corporations are recognizing that success in the 21st century means paying attention to the triple bottom line: people, planet, and profit.
The world's largest corporation has announced aspirational goals to be 100% renewable energy, zero waste, and sell only sustainable products. 60 to 90,000 companies that sell products to Walmart will now have to show that they are measuring and tracking their carbon footprint and beginning to reduce it.
A lot of people think that trash is inevitable. It's one of those necessary evils of life, but that's not true. Waste is actually the product of bad design, and bad design can be changed.
Innovative design is also creating low-tech solutions for the developing world. At the heart of the transition to a new world are the communities, families, and individuals who are changing the way they are living, making new choices based on the values that support a more sustainable, just, and fulfilling society.
When we think about global warming, we think about transportation, we think about how we heat our houses. But in fact, how we eat has just as big an impact on climate change.
Everywhere on planet Earth, in cities and towns, suburbs and villages, a vast and unprecedented global phenomenon is beginning to make itself known.
There is another superpower here on Earth that is an unnamed movement. It is far different and bigger and more unique than anything we have ever seen. It flies under the radar of the media by and large. It is nonviolent. It is grassroots. It has no cluster bombs, no armies, and no helicopters. It has no central ideology. A male vertebrate is not in charge. This unnamed movement, you can clap for that. The very word movement is too small to describe it. This is humanity's immune response to resist and heal political disease, economic infection, and ecological corruption caused by ideologies. This is fundamentally a civil rights movement, a human rights movement. This is a democracy movement. It is the coming world. What you're seeing here is the beginning of a list of the 2 million organizations in the world that work towards social and environmental justice. And that's a minimum. To give you a sense of how big this movement is, if I start this tape today at 9 a.m. and we watch this all day and all night, and the day after that, and then we watch it for 3 more weeks, and then another month after that, we still would not have seen the names of all the groups in the world. It's the largest social movement in the history of humankind by far.
Powering this growing global phenomenon is the explosive digital revolution that is revealing and connecting a planetary human community.
People can now be connected nationwide to act locally in their communities and then have all that local action united into one synchronized, beautiful, harmonic voice.
The only voice we have is this video editing. We don't know books, so we can't write much. But if we are able to do a small film of what is happening to us, it will go to the internet and the whole world will see it.
We have the technologies, policies, and initiatives to move us toward a thriving future. All that's missing is something that only human beings can provide: the commitment, the collective will to change our direction. Awake, committed people are galvanizing that will and becoming who they need to be to make it happen together.
We've seen that kind of motivation happen in this country. You never thought that you'd be free from the British Raj without guns, weapons, and peacefully they left. My favorite part in that video of expressing the transition that's happening now is Paul Hawkins, when he was saying that in 2004, there were 200,000, 2 lakhs of non-profit organization, grassroots, local non-profit organizations that were in effect and making a difference in their world. And 4 years later, when he was speaking at that conference in 2011, it multiplied 10 times to 2 million. We are at a place of major change. And I would like to say that we're at the confluence of the confluence. We are seeing or experiencing the wave coming. You know, you feel the water begin to swell. Other examples, I was given a video of an Israeli man who you could tell was a middle class young executive, and he decided to publish a video on YouTube I love Iran. An Israeli man sending this message, and he took some video clips of politicians, and he goes, I am not wanting any war with you people. I love you people. And he sent that message, and he put a little banner called I Heart Iran. And he sent that banner to Iran by this video. And then within a few weeks, some Iranians made a video, I Heart Israel. We love you, Israel. And that went viral on the Facebook. So also we saw an Arab Spring where the Middle East demanded democracy, and that actually started by some young college students, 2 of them women in Egypt. It was 2 young women by going on the social media. And so just as when we started today, many of you had voiced that people are good. We just haven't had a voice. And we've just assumed that others will speak on our behalf. So now we're at a time of making a stand. So, and how we can do that is, on one side, the Kumbhakarna, the one in the deep sleep, is waking up within us, and also in society. And that waking up is also having eyes. From one dream of a sleep to awakeness, real eyes. And so this is where we need a vision to recreate the dream. And then we're going to skip we're just going to skip one, move on. Should we do the meditation? We're going to skip Wombat. Okay, so with that in mind, let's take a moment now and we'll do a little meditation. And we're going,
listen up.
Oh no, we're going to skip, it's all right. And this will be an impersonal inquiry with the self. You can close your eyes or gaze forward. Take a nice deep breath in and exhale, letting go any worries or concerns. And with each breath comes hope and possibility. Allow the mind to go forward into the future, about 40 or 50 years from now, and see a world that is environmentally sustainable, a beautiful, harmonious, natural world. And imagine every individual, every soul, every being is spiritually fulfilled, honored, respected. Everyone in it has a right to their needs. It's a socially just society. And even the animals and the birds are in harmony. And in this world, What do you see? Look around. Imagine that you're being guided by children. These are children from the future, taking you by the hand and guiding you in this beautiful new world. Let yourself be touched by their laughter and joy. Their innocence and purity as they show you around this beautiful world of our planet Earth. What does an environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, socially just human world look like?
Now we have a real sense of what's possible and what's emerging right now, and the powerful possibilities for the future which are present. So all that's left is the fourth question. Where do we go from here? Which is a question about what each of us can do. It's a question about what you can do and what I can do. But it's a question about what we can do together. So let's have a look at a video which is going to help us to begin to answer the question, where do we go from here?
May I quote Dadi before we, just one quote from Dadi Janki on this topic. And as you know, she's the administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris. And she said about the world in which we can create, one approach is to keep things in order with force, but the other is to keep things in order with love. If someone tries to force things to work a certain way, it's not pleasant. But when nature stays in order because of love, when nature comes to order because of love, it's very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you. And then let's see this next video.
It's 3:23 in the morning, and I'm awake because my great-great-grandchildren won't let me sleep. My great-great-grandchildren ask me in dreams, what did you do while the planet was plundered? What did you do when the earth was unraveling? Surely you did something when the seasons started failing, as the mammals, reptiles, birds were all dying. Did you fill the streets with protest when democracy was stolen? What did you do once you knew?
So now we know. We know that our current worldview and the industrial system it gave rise to have run up against the limits of a finite planet. We know that the vitality of the Earth is declining every day, that the chasm between the few of us who have more than we need and the many of us who have not nearly enough gets wider every day. And we know that it is hurting all of us inside.
At the same time, we know that we are part of a worldwide awakening, a grassroots movement for change that is unprecedented in human history. So now that we know, the question arises, What part do we play in this great unfolding story? Where do we go from here?
Where do you go from here?
People want to know what to do, and I think that's a good question too, but a more profound question and a more powerful question is, who do we need to be? And I think who we need to be are people who know that the decisions and choices we make now impact the future of life for the next 100 years. Everybody alive today has a role to play. You don't have a big role and you don't have a small role. You just have your role. And if you play it, then your life will really have a kind of meaning that you've dreamt of.
This is the true joy in life.
The being used for a purpose, recognized by yourself as a mighty one.
D'être une force de la nature au lieu d'un petit nœud égoïste et fébrile de malaise et grief.
Complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy.
Soy de la opinión que mi vida pertenece al mundo entero.
And for as long as I live, it is my privilege to do for it whatever I can.
I want to be thoroughly used up when I die. For the harder I work,
the more I live.
Je me réjouis de la vie en tant que telle.
Life is no brief candle to me.
Es una antorcha espléndida que estoy sosteniendo por ahora.
Et je veux la faire brûler aussi vive que possible.
Before handing it on to future generations. George Bernard Shaw.
I don't think an authentic stand comes from your head. I think an authentic stand comes from your heart. You know, if your child is sick, right? Something happens in you to make a miracle. To make a miracle. And if you start thinking about it, you'll sit down. But if you feel it, you'll stand up. That's the amazing thing about this thing, is that it's when you stand up, you license other people to stand up. Now, you stand up by yourself don't make a dadgum bit of difference in the rational world. You just one fool standing up. But have you ever seen a standing ovation? It starts with one fool standing up. And then pretty soon the whole stadium is standing up. And it's a different moment.
To stand up for what we believe in, what we know to be right, what we know to be true, what we know to be needed. And when we stand up together, everything's possible. So the invitation of this event is to stand up. To stand up for a future that is sustainable a future that is spiritually nourishing and fulfilling for us, and a future which is just for the whole human family, for every child of every species. So we're standing up for that future. Thank you. Look around this room and look at the beautiful people that are here, stood up out of belief in this future. My heart is full to bursting right now that we're stood up in this way. Thank you. Brothers and sisters, we're going to hand out a way to mark this. And it's a small card. We're going to hand them out to you. It looks something like this. On one side of it is that beautiful quotation that we just heard read in so many languages. And on the other side it says, I am committed to bringing forth an environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, socially just presence on this planet as the guiding principle of these times. The invitation to you is, if you'd like to sign this card. This card is for you. You can take this home with you. It's not for you to sign and give to us. If you wish to, please sign it and keep it if it feels meaningful to you. If to decide whether or not I could commit my life in this way. So please, moved as you are, keep this, sign it, do as you will with it. But thank you, you've already indicated by rising to your feet your commitment to this future dream that we share. We might say it's the original dream of humanity. It's also our future dream. So thank you for being people who are moved in that way. I want to bow, I want to clap, and I want to celebrate. Thank you. In taking that stand, I want you to know that you're joining people in countries all around the world. It's been our experience that this workshop in the hands of the Brahma Kumaris has already traveled to 13 or 14 different countries. A week ago, Elizabeth was sharing it with 40 people from probably another 40 countries. And this workshop in the hands of other people, in the hands of volunteers, has spread to in total 72 countries around the world. There are more than 4,000 people trained to deliver this workshop. This is a global family. This is a global uprising. This is a worldwide concern, and it's a worldwide response. So we, the human family, are waking up. And then we have a couple of jobs to do. We've got a small amount of work to do to change the direction of the human family, to wake all of us up out of the trance and change the direction in which we're traveling. So I thought it would be useful if we shared some ideas about how to stay awake. And we have a slide here. Oh, let's skip to the one after that. This slide is some ideas about what we might do next. And I think the first one, stay awake, is perhaps the most important of all. Whatever we need to do, we need to stay awake. The trance that we talked about is very powerful, and it's waiting to draw us back in. It's waiting to envelop us again. So our work is to stay awake. And I think the other 4 points on this slide are actually very useful ways of staying awake as well. The second one says get educated. That means we have to find out what's happening in the world. We have to find out what the problems are in the world and on our doorstep. We have to find out what solutions there are, so we can bring solutions to problems in the world and on our doorstep. And sometimes I whenever I go to a different country, I like to look at the newspapers. And actually what I find is they're remarkably similar. If you change Hollywood to Bollywood, that's what's in the newspapers. If you look at advertisements for cars and houses and consumer goods, they're in the newspapers, whatever country you're in. So the newspapers don't always bring us, some newspapers are very good, but they don't always bring us what we need to know. Sometimes we have to go and look to get informed and get educated. So I encourage you to do that. And then we say, get connected. So we're talking now about getting connected to other people like the people in this room. So in this room are nearly 100 people standing as one for a new future. If we keep company with people like you, and you, and you, and you, if we keep company with people like us, we're going to stay awake. We're going to stay awake with a vision of a different possibility and a willingness to be in action. So getting connected and staying connected is really important. And then we'd say communicate. So when we talk about these ideas, they stay alive in us. We stay awake when we share these ideas. We're also going to tell you that you can communicate this workshop to other people because we'll make it available to you if you want it. And then lastly, get into action. There's lots of action needed. There's lots of action needed in the world. And being in action keeps us awake as well. I love how deeply embedded the concept of seva is in this country. How everybody knows that word, everybody knows that concept, and so many people are in action, helping other people, in service somehow to people or situations that need their help.
John, do you realize that these are the 4 pillars that we use? Gyan, Yoga, Dharna, Seva. Knowledge, connection, good company, Dharna, working on yourself, and Seva.
You can tell why we're in partnership. That's wonderful. So we recommend these steps to you, and in a moment we're going to invite you to think about action you might take in the future following this workshop. And to get you there, we've got a beautiful meditation.
Okay, so let's take another moment for ourselves, an opportunity to go within. I invite you to take a nice deep breath in, fresh air, fresh energy. You can close your eyes or gaze forward. And just think back on the pathway of your life. Way back from when you were a small child. And see all the things you have been doing in support of a just and sustainable and fulfilling world. Where you took a moment to pick up a piece of trash, or comfort a friend, or someone you didn't even know, or where you spoke out, even as a small child, for what you thought was right. Or when you were inspired by one of your friends. See the ways in which you are already contributing to the creation of this future. It's important that we acknowledge ourselves for what we already have been doing. As you review your life, notice where it is that you've most come alive. Where in your life have you felt enthusiasm and the joy of just being? I am alive, and how fortunate I am to be alive now at this time. Also take note of the skills that you already have, of the talents and abilities that you already have, and how they can contribute to a socially just, spiritually fulfilling, and environmentally sustainable world. Hold on to this awareness, this knowingness, this sense of purpose and meaning. And take a moment and listen to that inner deep voice of wisdom within you that knows. This voice knows what needs to be done. What is my unique contribution? What are the steps that I can take in making a better world for myself, for society, and for the world? Om Shanti.
So, keeping in mind what just came to you, let's show you now a framework of action that we can consider. And these are ways of thinking about where we might be in action in the world. Across the top you'll see the three headings that we have been talking about: environmental sustainability and social justice and spiritual fulfillment. And then down the left-hand side you'll see three areas of action that you can consider. The first, we're handing, actually, thank you, I'd forgotten, we're handing these out right now. Thank you. And down the left-hand side, three areas of action. The first is, we've called it individual and family, and that's, you might think about that being your own life and life in your house, with your family and in your house. One place where we can make a difference. We talk about in our immediate community. For some of us, that's also the place where we work. It could be the neighborhood that we live in, or the small community of people we work with or live with. That's another place of taking action and making a difference. And then the third level is the level of our institutions, the way we organize society. Now, the reason we've put those three levels is it needs change at all of those levels. For change to happen and change to be sustainable, it needs to happen at all of those levels. That doesn't mean that you have to be in action at all of those levels. For some people, you will be in action at one or other of those levels. Some people might be in action at 3 levels, but the idea is really to help you see where all of the domains of action are. And the invitation to you right now with the piece of paper that you've got is to take the thoughts that came to you as you went through that visualization with Elizabeth and map them onto this form. I invite each of us to find at least one action that we can write on the form now and commit to doing. An action we're prepared to commit to doing. I don't want to limit anybody, so if you have more than one, write more than one down. But please let's put one thing at least on this form, something I'm going to do next. And please put your hands up if you don't have a piece of paper.
Okay.
Okay.
You don't have to complete every box, but in the matrix, just whatever you feel that is doable for you within the next week or month, some measurable time that is doable for you. For example, one woman who participated noticed that at her school where she taught, they were separating bottles and cans and paper for it to be recycled. But the janitors at night didn't care. And they would just throw all the garbage together and put it in one bin so that it could be done with, and they can go home early. So she said, everyone knew about this, but nobody took a stand. So for her, a socially just and an environmental action was to make a complaint and also a solution, not just complain, but find out a solution, what could be done at her school. It was doable, it was measurable, and it was something she could see being done in a certain amount of time. And we know these things are around us. And it could be even at our home, with our families. A commitment I can make to myself. Would anyone like to share a commitment that they've already immediately came for them?
We might like the microphone for this, yeah, thank you. Please.
Yeah, since I'm into education line, with students I'm interacting regularly.
Can you hold the microphone?
I will try to bring social justice where like places, there are a lot of community feelings and this thing among the students. Okay. So there I will try to commit myself in bringing up whatever I can do. Okay.
Whatever you can do for social justice.
Social justice.
With the students that you're already working with.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else? You know, when you share a commitment out loud, you're much, much more likely to follow through with that commitment. It's a proven fact. So this is a beautiful opportunity to share something you're committed to.
Yeah, I thought about recycling at home. We have one single garbage and we throw everything in that. So I thought of segregating them and making a compost and using that in the garden. So as a first step, let it start with me.
The first step will be to start. So, excellent. So you thought about doing this. Is that the same as making a commitment to do it?
Yes.
Thank you. So this gentleman will be separating out the compost and using it in your garden. Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, there's a hand at the back. There's a couple of hands at the back.
Family and environmental sustainability, no plastic bags at home completely.
Okay, great. So in the family environmental sustainability, that's the end of plastic bags in this man's home. Wonderful, thank you.
And another thing at work, at the community, I want to take up rainwater harvesting in environmental sustainability.
Okay.
There is a plan at our colony, like residential colony. So I want to take up that rainwater harvesting for whole colony.
Wow. So
educating the people and putting the harvesting holes like that.
So you might be a champion for rainwater harvesting in the colony where you're living, and you can inspire and educate a lot of other people doing that. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. Yes, let's give him a round of applause. And can we get, yes, madam.
At my office, my workplace, we just log our accounts, login accounts on our systems and leave it as such. So on weekends, a lot of power is wasted. So I commit to switch off my system and also promote it into my colleagues to switch off their systems at least on weekends.
Wow. Okay. I didn't actually catch some of that.
Turn off the computers.
Turn off the computers
for the
on
weekend.
weekends.
Going to turn off the computers?
Yeah, because you work at a big
At my
office.
Yeah, I work in IT.
How many computers are there?
More than 1,000 computers. We have a 9th-floor office.
Can you imagine the electricity saved of 1,000 computers over a week?
As simple as that.
That
Thank
would be
you
very
much.
effective.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. All right, there was this man here.
I started meditation, so I'll continue that for my spiritual fulfillment.
Thank you. So an example from the right-hand column to continue and deepen your meditation practice.
Right.
Thank you. Are you meditating with the Brahma Kumaris here at the center?
I do it with there is another practice called Ajapa Jap.
Okay.
Which is from Bihar School of Yoga. So I do with
Fabulous.
that.
Because you'll also find some great help here if you need any.
Yeah, I've taken a book.
Thank you. Fabulous.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Anybody else? Sir.
I am practicing Raj Yoga for the past 1 year. I am educating people about the importance of Raj Yoga in their daily life.
Right. So in the same vein, teaching people about the importance of Raj Yoga. Thank you. Can we take the microphone to this man here? Thank you. Sir.
Thank you. This is a very powerful and joyful program. I am thoroughly enjoying. And basically, I'm like you. You know, I was in a big job and all that, travel across the world, quit, and I started something, agribusiness consulting, learning and development, and training people across the country. And what this program, you know, environmental sustainability, social justice, and spiritual fulfilling. We do programs, empowerment programs across the country. Every program, wherever we do, I have a session from Brahma Kumaris and values and relationships. They are the corporate executives and the guys across the agribusiness sector in the country. So we have, I made a mandatory part since last 7 years to have one session on the spiritual fulfillment. Automatically the social justice comes in.
Okay.
Then they'll be caring and concerning about individuals and environment.
Wonderful.
And, yes. So
okay.
That's fair. But from this program, what I just
because that's all about your karma.
Yes. But this program
from today.
Yes. Today. Add on to that, what I want to do is this country, India. You know, you have something different. You have the rich, you have poor, very poor, and this is a whole world we can see in this country. So I feel we need to get into social justice. So make sure some people get the deprived, get educated, get the better opportunities, and you have a lot of things, too much thing, and see that is shared with the people who are in need and who need that.
Fantastic. And is there a commitment that you're going to make today, to do that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right. Let's take one more, sir. And is there another woman here that'd like to share an idea? Yeah? Okay. Well, we'll come to you and you, sir, and that probably will be all we'll have time for. Thank you.
I think it's related to the individual family.
Individual family?
Family, yeah. The commitment I make is that I'm going to treat my daughter-in-law the same way as I treat my daughter. Because that's a problem in our country, you know.
Wow.
Thank you, sir. These are beautiful examples. Thank you. Thank you. this gentleman here.
I'm already working on sustainability reporting, management systems, ISO. I'm being a management consultant and trainer. So far I was talking to people on 3 P's, that is profit, people, planet. I'll also talk about peace and use this terminology, this framework in my training programs, at the right time, and educate or promote this concept.
Fantastic. Thank you. To be sharing this concept with other people, that's wonderful. Thank you. All right, well, thank you for those inspiring examples. The other thing that we want to talk about is some of the next steps that are possible. And Elizabeth, can you talk about the next steps?
Yes, the Brahma Kumaris have a lot of different programs, workshops, and teaches meditation. It's open to people of all faiths, backgrounds. There also is a new wing that has opened up a few years back, and we call it the Green Team of the Brahma Kumaris. And you can jot this down. The website is www.environment.brahmakumaris.org. And also on the Pachamama website, should I repeat that? That's just environment.brahmakumaris.org. Oh, there it is. Okay. And then you can learn more. Now, is this the India website, or is that the US? What's the website? brahmakumaris.org? .com. Okay, so the India Brahma Kumaris website is brahmakumaris.com. And this is the international. bkwsu.org is the international. And the next website is beautiful. It has some lovely videos of the collaborations, and also takes notes of the different countries that this partnership has been doing the workshop. And that's at the Pachamama/bkwsu.org. And Sister Anjali, we have leaflets on the Brahma Kumari programs here available. Yes, and this is Sister Anjali. And if you have any questions on the programs that are here, you can ask any of the brothers or sisters here of the ongoing programs here. Or perhaps you came from a distance and could be connected with like-minded individuals, because connection was important. They can let you know where there's a Brahma Kumari center in your neighborhood. Okay. So is that all right? She will notify you by email and let you know of opportunities and events that are happening? Yes? Okay. Yeah. So now we're going to show a video that was done by the South African team, Green Team. The power of thought.
Want to save the planet? Perhaps you recycle, practice a vegetarian diet, or watch your carbon footprint. That's great. But where does it all start? It starts with awareness. Thoughts come from the awareness that we hold. Consider the truism, you are what you think. Thoughts, like words, carry power. Hate, kill, suffer, murder, lynch, death, torture, war, rape, victim, ugly, useless. Versus love, help, care, heal, peace, purity, wisdom, truth, happiness, kindness, beautiful. They say if you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're probably right. Awareness becomes thoughts. Thoughts become consciousness. Consciousness becomes action. Action creates an impact. Now consider the impact your thoughts have on the planet. Do you want to hurt, pillage, exploit, use, kill, burn, destroy the planet? Or do you perhaps want to love, heal, protect, grow, nurture, save the planet? If you think the Earth is a beautiful living system and our existence is only a part of this intricate balance, than it is, then we will use her resources with greater respect. Kinder awareness leads to kinder thoughts, leads to kinder consciousness, leads to kinder action, leads to kinder impact. Impact triggers change. One person will share this thought with another, who'll share with another, who'll share with another. The more we think, the more we share, the bigger the numbers get, the greater the consciousness becomes. What started as one person reading this soon will become 100, and then 1,000, and then 1,000,000. The time to act is now. The time to act collectively is now. This creates an impact. Impact came from action. Action came from consciousness. Consciousness came from thoughts. Thoughts came from awareness. Want to save the planet? It all starts and ends with our awareness.
At the end of the workshop, we've talked about some of the actions that you can take, we can take to stay awake. We've looked at some of the actions we can take to make a difference in the world. We've talked about how you can be involved in the Brahma Kumaris activities. And to stay involved with the Pachamama Alliance is also possible. I think we've got a slide on that. Be the one after that, I think. So here's, yeah, thank you. So this is the Pachamama Alliance website. I want to say just a couple of things. We are thrilled to be in collaboration with the Brahma Kumaris. It's been a beautiful collaboration that has expanded the influence of both organizations. And it's our desire as an organization, as the Pachamama Alliance, to find collaborations with other organizations and individuals. So we create this workshop. The workshop that this was based on has been given to 4,000. There are 4,000 volunteers in the world who take this workshop to their own communities, their own audiences, their own organizations. So if you're interested in being involved in that way, and the man here has raised his hand and somebody else spoke to me at lunchtime about it, we will make this workshop available to you, and you can train or learn to use these materials yourself, or you can call on your friends in the Brahma Kumaris to come and present this workshop. They'll be delighted to do that. And there are actually some Pachamama Alliance volunteers in India, in Mumbai and Delhi and Bangalore and Pune. So there's a small growing network. The most important part of the network, I think, is going to be the Brahma Kumaris centers around India. But the point I'm making is these materials are available to you. We make them available. They're available free of charge, because that's our commitment to waking up people in the world. So if you have any questions about that, come and see me afterwards. We also have a version of this created especially for young people. It's not called the Awakening the Dreamer workshop, it's called the Wake Up, and that's being very successfully introduced in schools and colleges with young people. So if you're interested in that as well, come and talk to me afterwards. That's all I wanted to say, and these are the websites, so you can look at those. Yeah, and we're about to. We have a small gift for you. Before we offer that, we just want to offer some acknowledgements. Elizabeth and I and Sand.
Sand, please stand up. She's amazing. Yeah. This is John's wife, Sand, Symes, and she's a full-time volunteer and very dedicated and a great support, wonderful visionary, and very humble and modest. Sorry, I'm embarrassing you. You want to say anything? Anything inspired you for this group?
think I wanted to just share just a few thoughts and feelings that I had, or I've been having since coming to India. It's my first visit in my life, coming to India. And as John said, we've been here for about 3 weeks now. We flew into Ahmedabad, went up the mountain of Mount Abu, the headquarters, as most of you know in this room, for Brahma Kumaris. Had our heart opened even more, meeting some incredible brothers and sisters there from all over the world. We then were invited on a journey to a local school which serves a very, very large slum area, still in Ahmedabad at that point, which was humbling. And I think from each city and state that we've travelled through, we've seen the contrast between extreme poverty in India and also extreme wealth. And that is opening our hearts and our awareness of this country, and it's making me personally so committed to having this work be in your country. I cry a lot from some of the sights that I see here. And when John sort of stood earlier on and he said, you've got a leg in this country so deeply ingrained in spirituality, that also moves me to tears. I don't think I've been as impacted in any other country as much as I've been impacted here in India. So I thank you all for being here and sharing this vision.
So,
You can tell I'm a very lucky man.
so now we have a lovely little ceremony to finish off today, and we have some little bracelets, some gifts from Ecuador, the Aboriginal or native people of Ecuador, the Achuar people, and these are, what do these bracelets have a name? Just
They don't have a particular name, but
they're handmade with love and for the purpose of brotherhood. So they're brotherhood bracelets, Rakis from South America. And it's the bond of love. No, don't tie it on yourself, because after we've handed them out, you're going to tie it to your brother next to you, sister or brother next to you, as a commitment to this wonderful day of these wonderful souls in this room, and to make this commitment a bond to protect the world, to protect our families, society, and protect our vision for the self and for others.
So please go ahead, as some people are already starting. Find somebody to tie this bracelet on for you. Yeah, and while you do that, Elizabeth has a beautiful song for us.
Song of blessings. May I always walk the path of love, radiate God's beauty below, inside, above. I will open up my heart each day anew for the love of family, love of life, and the love of all of you. This is the beginning, not the end, of blessings upon blessings, my friends. May I always live a life of peace. May the words Om Shanti ring out for our unity to increase. May every word I speak be strong and true. I will always see the face of God in the face of you. This is the beginning, not the end, of blessings upon blessings, my friends. And now you are committed to service. You can change the world through your two hands, with your heart and soul. Yes, you understand. May we always shine our our inner light, with the colors of the rainbow rising up to brilliant white. And no matter where our choices lead us to, there will always be a place inside our hearts for you. This, everyone, this is the beginning, not the end, of blessings upon blessings of my friends. And now we are committed to service. We can change the world through our two hands, with our hearts and souls. Yes, we understand. When I think of mountains caressed by oceans blue, I will see the sacred island as a part of me and you. And like the stars that warm the darkest night, we will always fill our world with our love, our life, our light. This is the beginning, not the end. Go. Of blessings upon blessings, blessings upon blessings, blessings upon blessings, my friends. Om Shanti.
So a final couple of acknowledgements. We're visitors here in Hyderabad and are deeply indebted to all of the brothers and sisters here at the center for their warm welcome for us, their warm welcome for you, the use of this incredible facility. We'd specifically like to thank Didi, who I don't think is with us and I think is actually feeling unwell at the moment. Oh, is she? Good. Okay. So we might see her later. And then specifically we've had help from Anjali and Vamsi and Paras and brothers here whose names I don't yet know, who've been working with the cameras and the sound and the lights and the gadgets behind the background that have made things happen. And we're grateful to all of the people that have contributed to this event.
Anjali, Vamshi Bai and Anjali.
And Vamshi Bai and Anjali Ban. Yeah, particularly we're planning this in advance and printing materials and designing flyers and all of that work. Thank you for that. Can we have a round of thanks for all of the volunteers here? Thank you. Just a huge thank you for being here, for being a united stand for a different future, for a new future. It feels exciting, it feels heartwarming, it feels very fulfilling. So thank you all. Let's hit the video.
The kind of hope that I often think about, I understand above all, is the state of mind, not the state of the world. Either we have hope within us, or we don't. It is a dimension of the soul. Hope is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense, regardless of how it turns out.
As we look to the future, there's a metaphor from nature that can serve us. When a caterpillar reaches a certain point in its evolution, it becomes overconsumptive, a voracious eater that consumes hundreds of times its own weight. At the same time, inside the molecular structure of the caterpillar, something called the imaginal cells become active. They wake up, look for each other, and begin to cluster inside the caterpillar's body. When enough of them connect, even though they are not in the majority, they become the genetic directors of the future of the caterpillar. At that point, the other cells begin to dissolve and become what's called the nutritive soup, out of which the imaginal cells create the absolutely unpredictable miracle of the butterfly. What's possible is that we are the imaginal cells on the planet now.
We don't need any hero on a white horse. We're the people we've been waiting for. You already have within you enough love to save the planet.
What gives me hope? The answer that came to me was, Julia, if you have hope in your heart, and even if you're the only person left who has hope in their heart, if that hope is committed in action, then there's hope for the world. If you're the only person left, as long as your hope is committed in action, then hope is alive in the world.
There's an old African proverb that some of you know that says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We have to go far quickly. So we have to have a change in consciousness, a change in commitment, a new sense of urgency, a new appreciation for the privilege that we have of undertaking this challenge.
In the course of history, there comes a time when humanity is called to shift to a new level of consciousness, to reach a higher moral ground, a time when we have to shed our fear and give hope to each other. That time is now.
Every single one of us can do something to make a difference. You can. I can. God bless you.
To the nerves of your soul. Oh, you wander, you seem so weird.
The facilitators have requested, we want some of you to share your experience before the camera. It could be in English, it could be Hindi, it could be Telugu, whatever language. And it is going to be very simple, because you are a very, very valuable audience and we want to capture it in the camera. So who would like to do it, or should we ask you to come? How do you want it? Acha.
I say this is a very pleasant and powerful workshop. You know, completely a thorough enjoyment. And I basically, you know, when I see this program, I attended many programs like a spiritual program and on the social justice, and many times, you know, planetary environment. But this is something unique. What I see here is a blend of everything, very holistic, very integrated. And when you go through the workshop, you feel that kind of inspiration in you. You can make a difference. You can change it. You can change it now. That feeling comes in. It's a very joyful, involved workshop. And I see the John as well Elizabeth combination. It's a very synergetic combination. That's where I feel the kind of a joy and sweetness and your body language and the flow. It's very pleasant. That has given a lot of grace to this workshop. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello everybody. I have been attending several programs at Shanti Sarovar, and this is the first program which I've attended, and it was really awesome. And basically we have been educated regarding the sustainability all over in the school, colleges, at workplace, but here it was something different. What do we do now? How do we do now? How do we move ahead from now? And the best part, what I liked is, despite we knowing how to move ahead, we aren't able to go ahead because of several reasons. And the best part here is, we had a workshop. I don't know how do I put into words. We were asked to move around. And we were walking here in a zigzag manner. We understood, we learned, when we walk in a zigzag manner, we will not be able to achieve. But again we slow down. We again slow down again. We started understanding, we started connecting with each other. That made a lot of difference. So the environment was completely changed from there on. So this is what I experienced. Then we were calm, and then we were, it was more defined later. What do we do now? Our minds were calm and quiet, and it was very, very educative after having, how do I put into words? Overall, the workshop was organized in a very systematic manner, and then we were educated in an appropriate manner how to move ahead from there on. So, inclusive of the spirituality, inclusive of the meditation concept has made it more effective. This is what I can just put my thoughts into words. Thank you very much.
Actually, being a psychologist, I have been doing workshops, and it was a very nice feeling, to attend a workshop with Brother John and Sister Sandy and Elizabeth. So it took me in a very deep way, and in this particular workshop, I could find it was a wholesome. It was not dealing with one particular subject. It was a totally wholesome, so we can grab everything to keep attention. I don't think anybody might have missed 1 second, because we were so elated to see, videos, the discussions, and for, pepping up, there was a game. So I consider it as more as, motivational. And it is first time in this thing, coming to Brahma Kumaris. I also thank Mr. Brijesh, Brother Brijesh, who brought me up, and he made my day. Otherwise, maybe I would have missed for lifelong, So I really thank, not only I think in India, but all over the world, wherever this message is going, people should take out time and attend this particular Brahma Kumaris workshops or with Pachamama, so that, we will be just gaining. We are so, busy with our lives that we are not able to spare time for other things. And we are not able to share, hear what others are talking. So from today onwards, I will take out time somewhere, not only for my family, for my surrounding, for my environment, for my students, and to my, clients who come for counseling, and this, I will try to help. This is what commitment I'm giving here to Brother John, what he wanted. Thank you.
Hi, this workshop was so much illuminating. I got the awareness that my basic actions that I never cared of, how can those affect the society, environment, and people around me? And how can I, as a single person, can make a change, can betterize the world? So that really made my weekend. Thank you.
My name is Jai Prakash Singh. I'm the director of Sujata Group of Schools. From this seminar, what I got is, what is the power of a single individual? What one person can do to change the world? And I feel I'm going to take this seminar to my teachers and to my students and make this world a better place for all. Thank you.
Om Shanti, I am Etiraj from Bashir Bagh Center. What I liked most about this entire program was this sheet. It starts from the family. And I think if we have a happy family, we'll have a happy environment, and then the happy institutions all around us. So, this was very, very inspiring. And we've heard a lot of such lectures. But then we were made to take a sacred commitment in this particular order. And that makes it all the more holistic and all the more sacred to me. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Omio Dekka. I am from State Bank of India, and I hail from a state of Assam. And really, it is a really awakening of the dreamer. We all dream. We all know a little bit about environmental issues and social issues, and also spiritual issues. Particularly from India, we are all spiritually inclined. But the kind of awakening and kind of insight, new insight that we all got today from Brother John and Sister Elizabeth, is really wonderful. I think we all remember it, and we should, all of us more or less have been practicing a little bit at home, like recycling of this waste and all that kind of thing, and also yoga and meditation. But I think we should be expanding it to our social friends, our social horizon, and also institutional district. I think we should get more insight regarding how to translate into more of social action going forward. Thank you very much.
ओम शांति। मेरा नाम हरेंद्र कुमार है। मैं बिहार पटना से बिलोंग करता हूँ। मैं यहाँ पे मेरे दोस्त ने बायोडाइवर्सिटी प्रोग्राम के लिए बुलाए थे, उसमें हमने आया और वो 19 तारीख को ख़त्म हो गया था। फिर मुझे ब्रह्मा कुमारी से पता चला कि ये अवेकनिंग प्रोग्राम चल रहा है, तो मैंने सोचा कि वो वन डे में रुक जाने में कोई प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं है। मैं रुक के आज देखा तो मैं एक कोटेशन देखा, अवेकनिंग फ्रॉम ड्रीमर, तो मुझे लगा ये ब्रह्मा कुमारी में हम लोग देखे हैं कि कुंभकर्ण को दिखाते हैं और वो सोना जागना। मैं भी सोचा देखते हैं हम लोग में भी कुंभकर्ण तो सोया हुआ है, इसको जगाते हैं किसी तरह। तो यहाँ पे आया, रियली मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा कि हम लोग में भी, हर आदमी में कॉन्फिडेंस होना चाहिए। अगर हम लोग चाहेंगे तो कदम आगे बढ़ाने से सब लोग में भी जागरूकता आ सकती है और हम लोग मिलके कदम बढ़ाना है, यही मेरे। ओम शांति।
Respected John sir, madam, I would like to share my experience throughout the day. There were reflections all along the delivery of the program, and these reflections helped me to reinforce my commitment towards all 4 P's, that is profit, people, planet, and peace, through my work which I am into, like business, consulting and training. And one more interesting fact I realized today is that I am a blessed person. I have food to eat, I have clothes to wear, I have roof, and I realized that 83% people do not have this. Through my business, I'll create opportunities to promote social justice, where there is an ease of access to resources. There are opportunities provided to those who are underprivileged, and this all is possible through actions. So there are 2 actions which I have decided and I've shared earlier also. One, in my training programs, in my consulting assignments, I'll be sharing these concepts in a manner which is possible. Second is I would like to be ambassador of Pachamama in my community, in the local, wherever it is possible, and I'd like to get trained from Sir John and you and take it forward. Thank you very much.